Hello, 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 hello. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Hello, Midnight Alpha, Barot. I'm doing fantastic, man. Doing fantastic. How can you not with this kind of daily candles that we've got basically right after last week's stream? We did the stream all together. I think it was on Wednesday or Tuesday. No, I think it was Wednesday. And yeah, insane. Insane development. Hello, Stavriadas. Hello, Micro Sailor. Hello, hello, everyone. I'm not gonna wait that much longer to start because I am a little bit rushed by time today, unfortunately. Probably only have 45 minutes, but for those in the oven, I will be streaming tomorrow afternoon. I will have much more time tomorrow afternoon. And for those not in the oven, well, first, you should join. And second, I will be live again early next week. This is basically the last week of the summer for me where I am a little bit inactive, where I have to deal with some stuff in the real life. But yeah, so 45 minutes. What I had in mind was to discuss with you guys mostly Bitcoin H4 focuses. And the main reason for that is that for me, it's the main focus right now. I'm going to explain the reasoning, but then I can discuss rapidly the higher time frame focuses, but I'm going to explain the thought process of why I believe that H4 is the main focus to have for now. And then if you guys have any chart request for me, I will try to cover as many as possible until the end of the stream. And depending on how long we have, we did all these chart requests on Tuesday in the oven. Maybe there will be some maybe I have some of them already covered, so that should make things a little bit more rapid. Hello, Trend Flipper. What's up, brother? I'm glad to have you around. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing great. I hope everyone had a good summer. To be fair, to be honest, Bitcoin was kind enough to wait for the end of the summer to make a giga move. So we cannot complain too much. It gave us all the time in the world to enjoy the summer holidays with family and things like this, so that we can now go back to our caves, focusing on the market again. So that's nice. Massive focus on H1 200 MA from here, in my opinion. Yeah, so okay, Flipper is giving me a good transition. We start by explaining the thought process for me why H4 is the main focus. So as you guys know, or maybe you don't, but for those who have been in the either in the oven or following my content on Twitter or in the streams over the past few months or years, every time we have a spike in volatility, my first focus is to flip into lower time frame. So for me, it's H1, H4, which is probably more than normal time frame for many people, but I am a daily trend trader mostly. So when I say I'm going in lower time frames focuses, it means that I'm going into H1, H4. And the thought process is extremely simple. When you have a spike of volatility, lower time frame trends should be the ones that are defended the most. And the more brutal the move is, the more you're gonna have to dive into lower time frame if you want to be able to ride it. And the philosophy is until it doesn't work anymore. And we can see that with the recent H1 trend, which gave very small retests but gave some moves to try and capture. If you're trying to front run it, we can see it on the 15-minute trends. And basically the idea is that the moment the lower time frame trends that has been defended on the way up or down, it works both ways, is not respected anymore. You back out and you zoom out on the higher time frame and watch how things are developing. And right now we can see that 15-minute trends not defended anymore. H1 trends not particularly well defended anymore, which means that H4 is the place to go. And the idea that I have when I approach this kind of price action is that right now I'm going to be only watching H4 developments, and if / when it's not working anymore, I will be able to go back to my usual focuses and wait and prepare for potential daily trend retests, weekly trend retests. But yeah, so again, nothing new for those who have been watching the content for quite some time, but how do I approach these kind of trend retests? To me, there are two main possibilities. So the main focuses are what? The main focuses to me are 77.5, 79K, which is where the H4 trend is and where we basically spent the most time consolidating since last Friday. This is an obvious must hold. If we want to see some continuation short term, we want to see clean defense of the H4 trend, which means that you can have this first setup that we're going to discuss. But basically, we want to have H4 trend plus 78, 79K basically flipped and defended. And H1 200 MA for aggressive scalp long. What do I mean by this? In my system, I consider a trend to be lost when I have a close below the trend and -1 time frame 200 EMA not defended, which means that if I'm watching an H4 trend like right now, I will consider the H4 trend lost if I have a close below H4 trend and H1 200 EMA not defended anymore. If /when it happens, that's enough confirmation for me to know that the trend is not respected anymore and to prepare for gap fills lower or flip back to the daily, watching potential daily trend retests. Which means that setup wise, you have this first setup right now where you try to beat the H4 trend. The main issue with that is that if we go for H1 200 MA deviation, you're gonna take a loss on this one. But basically this is betting on a ideal trend development. So that's what I call ideal trend continuation setup. Usually I'm watching these kind of developments when I have the confluence of trend being defended plus stock reset from overbought to oversold and a confluence with an horizontal level. In that case, we cannot say that we have a crystal clear horizontal level. We can argue of this high, potentially flipped supports. It's not the cleanest one. It's not the most obvious support resistance flip, but still, it's still valid. And therefore you have this setup. Then it's up to you to decide how far you are willing to give it some space below the H4 trend. But I will go for this kind of setup 100%. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But historically, what I like the most in those kind of developments is trying to be a little bit more aggressive and try and capture a move into H1 200 MA. So this is basically what Flipper said in his message in the chat. He said, massive focus on H1 200 MA from here, in my opinion. And I tend to agree. But I'm willing to play both ways. I'm willing to play the scenario where we have a proper regime shift. And instead of being a cunt, Bitcoin prints a ideal trend continuation setup, in which case this is the kind of setup we want to go for, in my opinion. And if I'm wrong, I will only try to give it a shot in the H1 200 MA region. There is something that I said in my updates today in the event that I want to discuss rapidly for this kind of setup. So this is pretty much what I just discussed with you guys. It was the same kind of update on Tuesday. We already had the same focuses. Besides that, the H4 trend was lower, H1 200 MA was lower, but the idea was pretty much the same thing. And what I was saying today is that the ideal trend continuation is very clean, in my opinion. It's not the best support resistance flip, but it's still very clean. And the H1 200 MA deviation, the tricky part with those kind of setup is that it's complicated to know how far it can deviate below H1 200 MA. Like, if we assume that a lot of people have over leveraged themselves trying to catch up with the move they missed, it's possible that if we take these levels, we have a little bit of a cascade, and therefore it can be tricky to know how far it can wick. Usually when it's the case, so in that case today, if I'm willing to beat H1 200 MA, for example, I will very likely not do it with full size straight away. I will very likely only enter a third of the position, for example. And if we end up closing above H1 200 MA, use the week printed ISMA stop if it printed a nice week and it's not just a peak or retest, obviously, and then enter the rest of the position. That's always the trickiest part, especially in my opinion, when we don't have a lot of price action to work with on the move that led up or led down to the development, because it means you don't have like some consolidation to use for your invalidation. So that's about it for me when it comes to Bitcoin short term. For this setup right now, I'm very likely to wait a little bit. I usually don't like entering position during a stream like this, but I do believe it's valid. If we continue to develop a little bit more like this, it's gonna be basically the longer we consolidate like this, I wouldn't want us to consolidate all the way like this into the weekends. If we have to make a move off of that H4 trends, I would prefer for us to do it between right now and tomorrow afternoon. Uh, but the idea is that the longer we consolidate like this, the tighter the H4 trend is, the tighter the setup, and therefore the better the risk reward to catch. But we will see. We will see how it develops. But these are the two main ideas I have for me. If you want to have access to the charts that I'm discussing during the stream, I just made a post with H4 and daily updates. It's the exact same chart without the setups, but it's the exact same chart that I'm discussing right now. So don't hesitate to check on Twitter if you want to have access to the charts that I'm discussing right now. But yeah, that's basically the main idea for me when it comes to Bitcoin. I didn't discuss it, but what would be the targets in case of these two setups? To me, there is one very obvious upside target to have short term. It's the mid-May highs. I believe it's, to me, it's probably it's a very important level, and mostly because I am sure that a vast majority of market participants right now are watching this region as the must break, because managing to get back above it on the daily would invalidate the idea of another lower high, and therefore downtrend continuation basically. So I would assume that everyone and their mother are watching the 82K region, which means that it's probably a good place to front run if you are taking any kind of trades like this. You probably don't want to aim for the Pico retest, but paying yourself in this orange region right now probably is a good idea. And again, mostly because, yeah, I would assume that a lot of people are watching this as the invalidation of higher low idea on the daily, basically. And it's also probably the case that a lot of people are watching this as the as their beer bull kind of flip BAs, as if we were to find some acceptance above mid-May highs on daily, it could mean that it's a confirmation of market structure break on the daily. I don't know. I tend to like market structure analysis, and that's why I'm going to respect it if I'm long and we retest this region 100%. But in terms of bull beer BAs, for me it's mostly the weekly trend, as you guys know, and for now we are above the weekly trend. But yeah, okay. I wanted to, and obviously I forgot to say it, but outside of that, the second/next main upside target would be the weekly 100 MA region. Again, if you know the system, it's a fairly obvious one to have. In a EMA compression ridge pattern, you always aim for 100 MA above, and yeah, that would be 88-90K, a little bit like Zek did on lower time frame over earlier this week. Donk into the H1 100 MA. It's the same idea applied on much higher time frame, basically. But yeah, so that's about it. Let's see what kind of development we have through the stream. I don't know what kind. I know that tomorrow we have a big event with Jackson Hole and things like this. I don't know if today we are expecting anything more. Yesterday we had Nvidia earnings, which carried the market quite well. But I don't know if today we have anything of interest. I have not been, to be fair, I pay less attention to news when we are in this kind of environment than when we are chopping our asses off. So I can't tell you exactly what the main things we should be particularly watching right now, but it's going to be interesting. There's a nice weak low. Wait. Such a big overhang here of horizontal time frame resistance. Yeah. Krillin said it very well in one of his updates earlier this week in the event. He said that we were in this pivot place where we have lower time frame trend and momentum versus higher time frame horizontal levels and resistances, and that it's usually a good place to chop, and he said that 4 days ago, and we mostly chopped for the last 4 days. And it's usually not a time we want to be particularly overtrading. There is one thing that I would add for those who are not aware of it in the system is that when I have this kind of price action on last Friday, for example, and I see the distance between the moving averages within the trend itself, very often for me, it's a strong indicator of potential chop fest for the trend to catch up with price. And basically, the tighter it is, so the tighter we have, the tighter the gaps within the trend itself, so between 13, 25, 32, the more I'm going to be inclined to try and position myself. Very often it helps me avoiding the chop fests, and it gives much tighter setup. If you were to beat that for H4 32 EMA, 13 EMA, sorry, you have to have a wide invalidation basically, while right now you can have a much tighter invalidation. Can be risky, but yeah, often it helps avoiding the chop fest. There is a nice weak low that can be taken out on OB on H1 for validation around H1 100 H100. Yeah, I guess you're talking about this one, or maybe this one over there. In any cases, we have also a good confluence for H1 200 MA now with the weak low printed this weekend, where probably a lot of people got hunted, late joiners got hunted into the reclaim for the end of the weekend. But yeah, I personally like both setups, and I believe it's some good ideas. But yeah, so basically this is the main focus for me. These are the two main long setups I have in mind and that I believe can be taken. But at the moment I'm gonna start to see H4 trends not being defended anymore. I'm gonna flip back to the daily and weekly time frame, and from there the idea is going to be extremely straightforward. It's gonna be focused on beating daily trends / weekly trends. In an ideal world, I would like for confluence of daily trend and weekly trends. So right now it is the case because both are in the 68 to 73k region. But basically because it would be a nice confluence to have. But it's something that I discussed on my updates earlier this week, is that I am willing to bid weekly trend retest from here on Bitcoin and take the risk that this is a potential fake out. There is a world where what we saw was just a nasty fake out and the weekly trend ends up not being flipped support, and we do something like this. But the upside to capture if this is the beginning of a new weekly trend is much bigger than the risk of being stopped in one trade. So I'm willing to take the risk of this being a fake out. And if it's not, I am at the beginning of a new weekly trend, and we just have to look in the past the kind of behavior Bitcoin does when it starts a new weekly trend. So to me, the reward to try and long weekly trend retests outpace infinitely the risk of losing one setup, basically. Especially if I did the things well before the retest and I managed to book some profits. It's gonna be with a bigger peace of mind, I would say. What can I say more? I think it's about it for Bitcoin. I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't know if you guys have any questions. Hello, Bucket Printer. Can't watch live, but rewatch later with pleasure. If you have some questions for me, Bucket Printer, from the future, don't hesitate to ask me on Twitter. Hello, and bye. Hello, everyone. Okay, so if you have some chart requests for me, don't hesitate to shoot. I'm gonna start to watch some alts if you guys want me to take a look at. Don't hesitate. I've seen a question in the chat about XPL. I have one question about XPL. Okay, let me check. It's been a while I didn't check XPL. I've seen some posts recently which makes me think that probably it spiked a little bit. Okay. Tricky XPL. I would say that I'm not a big fan in general of playing laggards, and I tend to try and focus on the coins that have been leading the charge. So in that case, that would be Sol, Lead, Pump, Zcash, Hype, VVV, which are my main focuses personally. But I would also say that if you are, and yeah, I will take a look at Sol, Minat Alpha. Okay, I'm gonna take the requests, but I don't think I'm gonna do much more than the one that I've been already asked, because unfortunately I don't have much time today, as I said. Okay, but so for XPL, who asked the question, it's GG. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of playing laggards in general. I'm not a big fan of. I usually tend to focus on the leading alts. Basically, when we are in a choppy environment, all I do is try to look for isolated trends or capture higher time frame reversals. And when we are in a trend environment, I pick the main movers with some good liquidity and easy and a good narrative, and I focus on them. But with all that being said, if I was to long XPL in the hopes of XPL not being a cunt, that would probably be in this region indeed. Probably something like this. The thesis would be that if it cannot flip this support, whether it's on H4 or on daily, you can probably forget XPL for quite some time, which could be a fairly reasonable idea. But in a world where, yeah, it's a very cool horizontal level. In a world where Bitcoin doesn't shit the bed and at least consolidate, and therefore the rest of the market doesn't absolutely die, then this is probably a setup to chase. And it works on both daily and H4. Yeah, that would be the setup for me. Key horizontal level, daily 100 MA plus daily trend as must hold. You want this as your first target, in my opinion. You can have a lower target than this if you want to be a little bit less aggressive. Maybe more something like this. You take a round number, and you aim for the full gap fill in a very bullish world. But again, so here's what I would say for XPL. Laggards / not particularly leading the markets. So it's not ideal, and it's not ideal why? Because you take the risk of it continuing to chop while leaders continue to lead, because you have some capital inefficiency. Let's call it that way. But if any setup / region to hold for XPL, it's probably that blue box at 0.08 up to 0.086. Yeah. I'm putting, okay. Can I don't think I can tag people. Yeah. I will put the charts in the chat for those who want to keep a track of them. And for those in the event, I will post them in the chart request section as usual. But okay, you almost make me want to take a small gamble on that. But yeah. Okay. Quick words rapidly on VVV for those who are in the event particularly. Nothing to add. We are still waiting for target 2 to hit. So far, the higher daily trend goes, the better it is. Probably going to be able to adjust to the stop loss. But yeah, if we get a retest of the target 2 region, you pay yourself, in my opinion. So we are 27 August, slowly creeping up towards T2. Still needs BTC to be a plan, continues to take off in the T2 region. Stop loss adjusted from 12 to 12.8, 12.7. 12.5. All right. Just wanted to do that rapidly before I forget, because after the stream, I'm leaving immediately. I'm gonna answer your question, Lobo, in a minute. Okay, sorry, I bumped into my mic. I wonder if the Alex is not in the stream right now, but I wonder if the trade tracker is going to understand the update saying that the stop loss has changed. We have this new feature in the event that automatically tracks every trades in the Discord and update them alone without us having to say anything. But it's still a work in progress. So I wonder if it's going to understand that that adjustment. I need to text him. Yeah, but question. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know about, because it's not the same setup as initially. It messes up with the risk reward also. So I don't know. Maybe I should not do that, because it's gonna mess with the risk reward calculator, and maybe the bot is not going to understand the change. If I need to revert it, let me know about. I will revert it. If I can let you send him a text. Oh, I thought the stream starts now. My bad. No. It was supposed to be around. We have a news for Ena apparently. Ethena Foundation to buy out token selling VCs, align token equity structure, hard revenue buybacks, and end monthly VC unlocks. Okay, nice. Probably going to help the coin, which has been very scammy on lower time frame, but yeah. This is a very good example of why H1 200 MA retests are the best region to bet on H4 trend deviations. Earlier on stream, I discussed that if we get a H1 200 MA retest, it's the last / best place to try and play a H4 trend continuation. Ethena was a very good example of that. You have H4 trend that starts to crack, comes for the Pico retest of H1 200 MA, bounces. But I don't know how much it impacts. For XPL, do you find playing 15-minute compression an interesting option? Possibly. Let me check. Not particularly Lobo Reventado, because it's not necessarily the kind of structure that I like. I like this kind of structure. This one's not so much. So I would most likely stick to the H4/daily time frame, to be honest. Could you explain the reasoning behind the setup, waiting for trend retests? Are you talking about VVV or another one, and buy? If you are talking about VVV, it was mostly a breakout play. We had some Bitcoin activity. The market was picking up some steam, and it was starting to close above daily 100 MA, which is usually a good trigger for reversal. When you have this kind of structure in a coin, when you have the end of a strong trend plus 100 MA loss, the main thing I usually look for is EMMA compression, where we're gonna go all the way down to 300 MA. You can see on Zcash, for example, strong trend starts to crack 100 MA loss, we go for the full EMMA. You can have the Bitcoin weekly time frame or the Bitcoin daily time frame. We've had many examples of that. So on VVV, for me, we took a very nice swing long earlier this year, and when the trend started to get disrespected, we exited the position. When we lost 100 MA, I said that I was either waiting for a 300 MA retests or a 100 MA reclaim. And when we started to close above 100 MA, usually I tend to be a little bit cautious on that. But because in parallel we had Bitcoin breaking out and moving aggressively, I decided to give VVV a shot, considering it was amongst the recent good coins. My thought process was that if Bitcoin is sending and people are late to Bitcoin, they're probably going to be willing to bet on the recent strong shitcoins, and maybe VVV is in their list. So mostly just the daily 100 MA breakouts. Okay, I just took way too long to do that. Okay, so IENA, we just discussed it. I kind of really like the higher time frame structure, to be honest. These massive breakouts. Unfortunately, I don't have a bag, and if I wanted to have a bag, I would probably want to beat this region, but it's already been retested and I missed it, so maybe I'm not gonna get it. But that would still be something that I would want. Mostly because we have a very good confluence of daily trend, daily 100 MA, daily 200 MA, sorry, daily 300 MA, plus obvious strong resistance, right? It's been basically the same resistance since the beginning of the year. So I would say that a retest of this region plus daily trend is probably the place where I would be willing to long. Again, maybe that was the retest and I missed it. If that's the case, I'm gonna have to chase higher later. But yeah, so my main thoughts on ENA is that missed the H1 200 MA retest for a scalp long, missed the impulse news, equals probably a bit late slash I would feel like I'm FOMOing if I was to enter here. Alex has been messaged. Okay, don't forget to tell him please that maybe I can write down that I'm adjusting the stop without moving it in the setup. Something like this. I let the initial stop, but I do something like this, like I was doing for the first position, where I do something like this. That way, it's not messing up with the bot, I think. It's, you know what, I'm going to do that straight away. It's probably better that way, but still, it's gonna be interesting to know what Alex tells. But it's probably easier that way. And in any cases, when the stop is going to be in profit, I won't be able to adjust. So, okay, thank you very much, Barot. Awesome. So yeah, Anna was saying gonna wait to see if it continues to defend H4 trends. Until then, setting alerts in the confluence of daily trend, X daily 200 EMA, X major previous horizontal resistance at 0.12 up to 0.14. If slash when retested can be swing material. This is something I usually really like to do when we are in this kind of environment and I feel a little bit late to a coin. I try not to succumb to the FOMO, and I usually just map out main areas of interest, and then I wait for the alerts to trigger. I'm gonna put some alerts back to the local highs also, and I will see if slash when I receive an alert basically. But definitely looking interesting with the news we've had today. Maybe it's gonna have some momentum. I don't know. But yeah, you know what? Enough for me to add it back to the watch list. All right, next one. Link. I discussed it earlier this week. The main thought process I had for Link is that it already filled the gap to weekly 200 MA. And if slash when it's a good example of what I just said. I missed the entire move. I zoom out. I set some alerts at the most important higher time frame region. In that case, it's the weekly 200 MA region plus this confluence horizontal level where we're gonna have the weekly trend plus a major horizontal level. And I wait for them to trigger. But if I'm not mistaken, on Tuesday, I discussed rapidly lower time frame, I think. Let me check the chart requests. Yeah. I shared this on Tuesday. Okay. A little bit sad. It front run H1 200 MA, the bastard. The idea was this. So no regrets, because I would have missed it. But yeah, this was the ID shared on Tuesday. If you want to scalp Link, probably want to go for the aggressive approach. What I was discussing on Tuesday when I shared this was that Link has been over the past few years kind of a current coin to trade, and usually I tend to treat current coins. If I'm willing to trade coins that have historically been bullying me, I try to go for the most aggressive approach. In the sense that, okay, if I have to play along on this thing that has been historically bullying me, I won't have any regrets if I go to the most greedy place than if I just play it wise, play it safe. So I will stick to that. If I'm gonna adjust my alerts to sorry, to H1 200 MA, which is now in confluence with this week's low. And if we have a retest of H1 200 MA, I might give it a shot. Not interested otherwise. But yeah, a little bit sad. But it looks decent. It looks decent. The fact that something like Link does look that nice says a lot about where we are in the market right now. Which is some very interesting place and hopefully beginning of something cool. For a lot of alts, they bounced vastly less than Bitcoin in May, but it also means that now they are already printing higher highs. If you remember what we discussed at the beginning of the stream for Bitcoin H4 and daily, when I said that mid-high, the highs from May was probably the most important place. For many, because it was the region for a higher low. In a lot of alts, we are above these mid-May highs, but also because they behaved like trash in May when Bitcoin pumped. But it means that for them today, they are already printing higher highs. So it's extremely encouraging in my opinion. I believe that it's, yeah, it's good. Okay. H1 compression on link. Yes, but it is above H1 compression right now. So in that case, H1 200 EMA remains the most interesting place to bet on if retested. But yeah, it could form some sort of something like this. But again, in any cases, whether it does that or the compression or not, in any cases, if I want to focus on it, it's gonna be off of H1 200 EMA. But yeah, okay. VVV, we did it already. I'm just gonna do something real quick for Zcash. On Tuesday, I said that we wanted to keep an eye on the H1 200 EMA and H1 100 EMA. I just want to highlight it real quick. I just needed to do so. Up. Even if personally Zcash is something that I like to trade on daily more than on lower time frames. Sol, I am so mad about Sol. I'm gonna show you guys why. I don't know if you guys are in the event or not, but on Solana, the day before we pumped, basically, I shared this long over here. And unfortunately, as you can see, it went to 70.6, 63. My first bid was at 70.6, 76.6. And then it basically went to all targets and more. So, and before that, it wicked me out. So I cannot say that I'm not mad as fuck about Solana right now, but it is what it is. But at least it gave me a very, very clean, ideal trend continuation setup. As I said earlier, I used Bitcoin example, but I said that the ideal trend continuation is when you get confluence of horizontal level being flipped. In the case of Bitcoin, it's not very clean, but in the case of Solana, I believe it was very clean. Plus trend defended, plus stock reset, so everything was there, and it gave a nice continuation. So the main thing I can say for Solana is that it did give a absolute perfect trend continuation setup, with the confluence of trend plus stock reset plus horizontal level. Perfect example. I'm gonna keep this example in mind because I need to do a reminder of the ideal trend continuation setup I have in the Haven. That's gonna be the educational video for the month, I believe. I think it's a good time to do so. Chasing the confluence of one horizontal SR flip, 2 trend defended, 3 stock resets. So we have 1 here, we have 2 here, and we have 3 here. And usually what you want to do when you take these kind of setups is that you pay yourself partially on the retest of local highs, and then you let it ride as high as the trend goes, which means that from here, for Solana, a perfect continuation setup would be a retest of this region. Oh. As we would have the 3 components once again. So personally, I'm gonna, and you have the confluence with the round 100 number, obviously. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna set some alerts in the low 100 region. So I'm gonna actually say it directly. Just printed a perfect ideal trend continuation pattern with the defense / confluence of horizontal SR flip, H4 trend defense, H4 stock resets. From here, ideally, we get a second round, which would be H4 trend X previous local high, retest and flip at 99.5, 102. Setting some alerts in that area for potential scalp in coming days. Very clean. I'm putting a note for me, a GIF video about ideal trend continuation setup. It's been a while I didn't do an update on this, and usually it's fantastic news that I have to do an update on this kind of pattern, because it means we are in a trendy environment, and we like being in trendy environments. This is where most of the baguettes are printed, basically. Okay. Does the daily 300 MA on Sol not concern you when taking this H4 long? 100%, obviously. You mean by the fact that it's still descending, or that we could come and retest it? I will apply the same logic that I have for Bitcoin H4 right now, SAG XR, which is play the lower time frame trends as long as they are defended, and until they are defended, until they are lost. I don't know how to say it, but for now, because H4 trend is defended, focus on H4 trend. And the day H4 trend starts to be disrespected, the moment we close below H4 trend and H1 200 MA is lost, then we flip back to the daily, and then we prepare ourselves to potentially long a daily 200 MA, daily trend retest or something like this. But when we are at the beginning of a strong trend / when we have a spike of volatility, if you're looking for some setups short term, try to focus on the lower time frame trends, which again doesn't mean that you should not have crystal clear plans on higher time frame, like we just did for ENA, like we have for Link, etc., etc. But if you are to take some active trades, at least in my opinion, do it with the lower time frame trends until it doesn't work. And this is the idea on Bitcoin. It's okay, we focus on H4, but the moment it starts getting disrespected, we're gonna flip back to the daily and focus more on how it looks on the daily and how we want to swing off of daily 200 EMA, weekly trends. I don't know, but you get the idea. You get the idea. The thing you can do with higher time frame moving averages is to use them as target for your lower time frame trends scalp. For example, if on Solana we have weekly 200 EMA over here, and you want to take a scalp continuation, then this can be one of your target, for example. But that's about it. That's about it. So yeah, try to focus on the lower time frame trends, but take some time to set some alerts for the higher time frame picture. One, so that you can have some clear targets to the upside if there are some targets to the upside to have, and two, to be ready to swing if / when the lower time frame trends are not respected anymore, so that you don't get taken by surprise. Basically, the better the preparation, the better it is, obviously. And then DRV. Am I retarded, or this is the first time I hear about this one? I think. Oh wait. Wait. Did someone ask for this one some time ago? Hey Pierre, can you look at DRV, derive? So no, I guess no. I don't. I guess it's this one. Where is it listed? Okay. Quick check. Okay. When someone sends me a ticker of a coin that is listed on these kind of exchanges for spot, I usually immediately check if it has a perp pair on Binance, and usually the confluence of perp pair without perp pair without spot pair on Binance, it's usually a scam incoming. TIO on Platform, can you look at it? Yeah. It's moving aggressively. I didn't take that setup, but I know that Krillin did in the Haven. Many people have been following his setup. TAO, Krillin. Where is it, the setup? Yeah. This was the setup from Krillin. Yeah, this is the most recent update. So yeah, very clean, very clean. But yeah, for TAO, I used, when I was watching TIO earlier this year, I had this level, the 270, 290, as one of the most important on the charts. Pivot over here, support here. So if I was long TIO right now, I would probably pay myself right now. I would take some off, and I would wait for the next daily trend retest to position myself. But it's a good place to lock some in my opinion. Doesn't mean it cannot just blast through it, but still, it's a significant horizontal level, and I think it's a nice place to have as a target. But it's on the watch list. It's on the watch list for some potential things. Top three entries you are currently looking at. As I said, Bitcoin H4 trend continuation and or Bitcoin H1 200 EMA retests. Hype above Hype above 83, 84. You see, it's the exact same logic. H4 trend continuation or H1 to ultimate retest, but it should be adjusted a little bit. Pump H4 continuation, but I have not. I admit that I'm mostly watching the daily on Pump, but you can probably try and focus on H4 trend on Pump also. Zcash above H1 100 MA is probably a long, so that's above 820. Lead H1 200 MA, I would like to long. And yeah, I think it's about it. But yeah, okay, so let's finish with the RV, and then I have to run, unfortunately. So this looks extremely, that's probably a low cap coin, I would assume, by the look of the candles and things like this. It's usually, but when I open the daily chart and I see that many wicks, I usually know that you can do as much technical analysis and astrology for mail that you want. You're probably going to get hunted. So, who asked for DRV? I don't know if you are still around. 248. I don't know if it's a coin that you want to actively trade. That looks extremely weaky, extremely trappy. But if you do, probably can try to play the H4 trend, considering that it's been defended for the basically since the breakout at 0.10. But I would also probably tell you that if you are playing this, you want to have reduced size on that, because this looks extremely trappy. So I would be slightly cautious. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Mostly because I'm running out of time for today. But okay, so before I leave, as I said, as I just answered to Ben Widin, focusing on H4. Two options. You bid H4 trend retests with a fairly tight invalidation below, and you aim for retest of mid-May highs, which again is probably the most important level higher time frame right now for many people. Or I think you can play both. You wait for the H1 200 MA retest, which again is considered as the last place for the trend to be defended, and therefore risk reward wise probably the best one to aim. But I think you can play both. I think you can try and play the H4 trend continuation, or wait for the deviation below. Basically, if you are losing Wednesday lows plus starting to spend some time below H4 32 EMA, I think you can try to aim for this. Otherwise, betting on continuation can be interesting also. So that's for Bitcoin. Mid-May highs as next upside target. Again, very important region because people are going to watch it as the different story between another lower high on the daily or a break of the market structure. So that would be a very good target one to have if you are longing one of these two setups. Outside of that, Solana for the potential H4 trend continuation also. Keep an eye on a potential retest of the $100 region in the next few days, tomorrow or during the weekend. Hype above 83, 84. It's trying to break through right now. I believe it's a fairly obvious horizontal level. Basically, since last Friday, it's been denying hype all the time. It gave a nice compression in between. So if it manages to break through it, I believe you can try to go for a setup like this, for example, for continuation. I would also keep an eye on Zcash. As I said, if it manages to close above H1 100 MA, I think you have a setup. Otherwise, set some alerts at H1 200 MA. Exact same logic that we just discussed through the stream. VVV, probably not something that I would try on lower time frame. I believe that if you are not long yet, I would set some alerts on the daily trend and wait for retests. It's not something that I discussed extensively, but when we are approaching EMMA compression in the system, the confirmation of exit is when we have the trend defended above 100 MA or the trend defended below 100 MA. This is why on our weekly plan on Bitcoin, and it's actually a reminder that I have on the weekly plan, we have weekly 100 MA as very important, because the moment we're going to have weekly trend above weekly 100 MA, this is going to be the moment of euphoria. If we think about previous bear markets, it's always an interesting part. And therefore, it's the same thing on VVV right now. If you want to position yourself and you're not yet long, in my opinion, know that you have daily trend and daily 100 MA confluence, bidding a retest probably is not a bad idea. Or at least it's on the daily, it would be the best place to do so. What can I say? Lead H4 and daily, H4 trend particularly, if it can do a little bit like Hype did over the past few days, where it consolidates like this while H4 trend catches up, maybe you can have a continuation setup like this to take through the weekend. And yeah, that's about it. Link TAO, we said that it was a good place to take some off. And yeah, that's about it for today. I will be live again next week. Probably Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not yet sure when exactly. In any cases, I will post on Twitter when I go live as usual. If you want to have access to the Bitcoin H4 and daily charts that I just discussed through the stream, I'm giving you the link to the tweet in the chat. Don't hesitate to check. I gave the main focuses to have. You don't have the setups displayed, but they are explained on the right in the text. And finally, to close the stream, the usual Ziaven chill, obviously, especially in current market conditions. I believe it's the best moment to join the Ziaven. The two best moments are during the bear market, and the second best moment is during the bull market. But yeah, if you like this kind of stream and you want to see more from me, don't hesitate to check the offer that we have. You have a discounted offer for the educational content, which I believe is incredible. The amount of educational content we've stacked through the years now is quite big. You have a lot of things to cover, from Loma setups to main, to Crenance, to CBS. The amount of things to go through is insane. And yeah, if you're interested, go in my Twitter account. You have a link over there. Check it out. If you have questions about the event you want to ask me, don't hesitate to ask on Twitter below my posts. If you are not certain to join yet, we have a free newsletter that can already be interesting if you want. And yeah, so I will, for those who are in the event, I will see you guys tomorrow. I am streaming around same time than today. We will do more chart request and scanning. And for those who are not in the event, I will see you on CT if you have any questions for me, and I will see you guys next week for the next public stream. Thank you very much for joining. Thanks for the questions.